Okay, greetings. This teaching module is on demographic shifts and the unsustainability of the welfare state. Specifically, we're looking at, this is a population pyramid from sociology. We're looking at the population pyramid from the 1930s through the population pyramid through today and tomorrow. And a lot of this analysis is stylized facts based on the GAO report on the nation's fiscal health. This is for the United States. In the 1930s, you have two major programs implemented by Roosevelt and the New Deal. You have Social Security, which is the retirement or pension, and then you had to aid to families with dependent children, otherwise aid to families with dependent children. And the idea for that under the welfare warfare state is so that mothers would stay home and raise citizen soldiers. So there's been some social science findings of the 1930s that AFDC in the 1930s was to prepare soldiers for World War II under the period of economic nationalism. The earlier period of economic nationalism. And then you have Medicaid in 1960. But specifically, what we're looking at is the population pyramids for the retirement program in the United States, the federal retirement program. So let's look at that. So it's well known that in the 1930s, there was high unemployment, and the way you get reelected is by lowering unemployment, so that the official statistics report less unemployment so that you get more votes. So there's been some social science findings that one of the reasons that the New Deal implemented retirement programs is so that retirees would drop out of the labor force, lowering the official unemployment statistics. So if you're a skeptic or a classical liberal, you'll believe that the reason that the New Deal put in some of these, especially Social Security, was to lower unemployment figures so that Roosevelt could get reelected, which did work because he got reelected 4 times. So in the 1930s, prior to the 1930s, you had much more open immigration than you did today and out until tomorrow. So in the 1930s, when the original Social Security was put in place, there was 5 people paying into the federally funded retirement program. And today, due to the demographic shifts and lack of retirement, lack of immigration, and people living longer lives, it's projected that tomorrow, again, the GAO report, I believe it's 2032 or something like that, there'll only be 2 workers paying into the 1 retiree. So in our stylized facts, in the 1930s, you could retire at age 62 and people were living to 70 years old. Today, you can retire at 65 and people are living a lot longer lives. So in the 1930s, you had 5 workers supporting 1 retiree, meaning that the withholding tax for Social Security would be 20%. 5 workers paying for 1 retiree, it would be 20% per worker to support 1 retiree. Today, out until tomorrow, only 2 workers supporting 1 retiree, with projected tax of 50% just for Social Security. So that in itself is unsustainable. No one would want to work and accumulate capital and pay 50% tax just for retirement programs. So that's why the GAO is reporting that the nation's fiscal health is unsustainable. Okay, so that's why just for Social Security alone, the demographic shifts show that the welfare warfare state is unsustainable. But moving on from that, here's a recent book, Kogan 2017, on Stanford University Press, A History of U.S. Federal Entitlement Programs, where he finds that Social Security, aid to family with dependent children, what it's called now, Medicare, Medicaid, all of these programs have been expanded continuously to cover more and more categories. So Kogan finds that, and again, you have to be careful how you measure aggregates. We know from Hayek 1945, the use of knowledge in society, that people measure things according to their pre-analytical dispositions and the point that they want to make. And there's always a knowledge problem in gathering and aggregating data. But nonetheless, Kogan's findings are that now these programs have been expanded to such an extent that they no longer only go to just the poor. They go to those with average or above average incomes. So the welfare state has expanded itself to get buy-in, political buy-in from everyone, not just those who are poor or temporarily poor. So it's created a huge welfare state, unsustainable welfare state. So how do you reform, let's say, Social Security, for example? Well, what you would do is you would elect a politician who said, okay, I'm going to reform Social Security. And not a lot in their two-party Kabbalistic or duopolistic system, neither major party is addressing reforming the welfare state, despite the fact that GAO has been reporting for numerous years, at least the 30 years I've been studying this, that the welfare state is unsustainable. So what you would do, you would increase, say, okay, those starting today paying in to the Social Security, which is 12%, 6.5, 12.5% of your paycheck before you even see it goes to Social Security. So the way to reform that is to increase every year. Okay, so those that are starting to pay in this year, you can retire at 65. Those paying in next year, 66. Those next year, 66, 67. And you reform that every year to make it more sustainable. And you're clear about that, announce it up front. So you have, there's no disruption of the social fabric. There's no class unrest. You make it clear, like any reform, you make it clear that this is how the reform is going to be done. And you get democratic consensus, or you get consensus. Another way, which a lot of my work is on, is you can replace all of these corporate and social welfare. This doesn't even include the corporate welfare and corporate cronyism, the tax subsidies and that, for businesses, certain businesses and not others. You can replace all social and corporate welfare, replace it all. Some politicians want to add a universal basic income. But my idea, and I espouse in this book, I have a chapter in this book, my idea is that you can get rid of all of these special interest political transfers and replace it with a universal basic income that goes to everybody equally, no matter what your income level is, no matter what your state-defined category is. And by replacing all corporate and social welfare, you can give $1,000 a month to every single person age 18 and over, without having all the paperwork involved with and special interests involved of these various categories. Replace it all with the basic income. And we've done a hard-fire TV show on that you can find on YouTube that updates the information in this book about replacing the welfare state with a basic income. And then that brings self-determination back to the individual. Thank you. That completes our teaching module on demographic shifts and the unsustainability of the welfare warfare state. Again, you can find more about it in the GAO report 2020. Thank you.